years back, I owned several rental properties in Las Vegas. I had 3 different people manage my properties at different times during my stint as a landlord. And the best PM I ever hired was a guy by the name of Jeff. This guy had excellent work ethic. He was always on time. And the only time he ever missed work was when he had food poisoning. And even then, he actually still tried to come into the office to email files to himself so he could work from home. I mean, this dude was rock steady. Well, Jeff ended up getting married and moving to Utah, so I had to hire another property manager. Now, admittedly, I was in a bit of a rush to hire someone because I didn't want to have to be at the office all day. I had done that already. I didn't want to take phone calls from tenants. I didn't want to have to deal with maintenance requests or rent payments. I didn't want to have to deal with any of that. I wanted to keep living the Vegas life. I wanted to keep cruising down the Vegas Strip for new girls. I wanted to party. I wanted to go to the club. I wanted to do all night. So I hired the first person who applied for the job, who happened to be a Puerto Rican woman, originally from New York, by the name of Yolanda. Now, Yolanda, she interviewed very well. She showed up on time. She had reliable transportation. She presented well. She was well-spoken. And she had a bit of an edge. This impressed me. That edge. Because you have to have an edge when you're dealing with things like late rent payments, maintenance requests, or unreasonable maintenance requests and so forth. Just typical things you have to deal with as a landlord. I didn't call her references or ask her about her last employment because deep down, I didn't want to disqualify her. I didn't want to find a reason not to hire her so I could continue being an idiot in Vegas like every guy dreams about at some point. So I hired her on the spot and told her she could start the next day, which was Thursday. Thursday and Friday, those were her first 2 days. So Thursday and Friday, she showed up, she went through the training, met most of my tenants, met my maintenance guy, soaked up the data, learned Sage, which is the alternative to QuickBooks accounting software. That's the accounting software that I used. A little less expensive alternative for small business owners. I mean, it really seemed as though she was going to do quite well. Well, Monday, she showed up a few minutes late. No big deal. I didn't say anything. 6 minutes in my mind, that's not going to make me or break me. No big deal. Tuesday, she showed up about a half an hour late. Wednesday, she showed up on time, but she took an hour and a half lunch. She only gets an hour. Thursday and Friday, she showed up on time, took an hour lunch, but the following Tuesday, Yolanda was a no-call, no-show. So Tuesday, I call her up and I asked her where she was. She gave me some sob story about how her kid was sick and about how she had to rush him to the ER and all the rest of that, right? She apologized for not calling, but she said she was hysterical because her son is her world and she wouldn't know what she'd do without her. Well, turns out, according to her, she said her son had a fever, far from the life or death situation that she had alluded to on the phone. So I let that slide. Over the next 3 weeks, Yolanda was always late. I can't remember the last time she actually showed up to work on time. She took extended lunches. She'd leave the office without telling me. I had tenants calling me on my cell phone, telling me that no one was answering the phone at the office. My maintenance guy could never get a hold of her. I mean, dude, it was a mess. It was an abject disaster. The last straw was when she was a no-call, no-show, which was now the second time she did this to me. And at that point, I fired her. Now, she did the usual thing that bad female employees do when they lose their jobs because of bad performance, attendance, or both. She tried to apologize. Oh, Donovan, I'm a single mom. I have no other job prospects. I was relying on this job, blah, blah, blah. I didn't budge. She was out. I was done with her. Well, a couple of weeks later, I get a summons from the Clark County Civil Court informing me that Yolanda had sued me for wrongful termination. What happened in court was both unbelievable but expected. I ended up winning a summary judgment because she was late to court. Guys, I kid you not. This chick ended up showing late to court. The proceedings started at 9. Yolanda's name started with an A. So her case was, I don't know, like the 3rd or 4th on the docket. And by the time it was our turn, she wasn't there. The judge gave me a summary judgment. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what a summary judgment is, it means that the judge, long story, to dumb it down just in layman's terms, it means that the judge finds in favor of the party who is in court. If someone isn't there, like if someone sues you, now this doesn't happen in criminal court. Not that I have experience with that. But I've been sued I've been sued 3 times. I got a summary judgment with this one. But if someone sues you or you sue someone in civil court and you don't show up to court, whoever doesn't show up loses the case automatically. So if you're there and the plaintiff or defendant is not, the judge will give you what's called a summary judgment. This is not legal advice. This is just experience. And I took a year of paralegal school. Again, not legal advice. Disclaimer. So at this point, right, I got my summary judgment. I don't know, it's probably 9:45, 10 o'clock. The proceedings started at 9. The funny thing is that on the way out, my lawyer and I actually saw Yolanda running down the hall. Now, I was hoping that she would see us, but she didn't, which would have been way too funny. And it was so funny because, the judge is like, Miss, I don't want to give her name out on the air. He was like, yeah, Miss A, are you in the court? Miss A, are you in the court? And I remember looking at my attorney, just kind of smiling and shaking my head. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Dude, and you can see in the, in the statement that I made, hey, I fired her because she came to work late, blah, 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 blah. And wouldn't you know it, she wasn't there. So the judge kind of chuckled. All right, boom, I fined for Mr. Sharp. Have a good day. And that was that. What that whole fiasco taught me was that I had a scarcity mindset when I lost Jeff, my former reliable superstar property manager. He is the best employee I ever had, and he made my life much easier. And when he left, I was in a hurry to replace him with whoever could basically walk, talk, and breathe. I did not vet Yolanda properly. I didn't call her references. I didn't call her former employers. I didn't run a criminal background check, which in hindsight was extremely unwise because she would have been handling money, checks, had access to proprietary information. But luckily enough, she didn't stick around long enough to get to collect any rent. I saw that she was well-spoken, that she had her own transportation, and I decided to hire her on the spot so that I could continue to living the lifestyle I was used to that Jeff afforded me by being who and what he was as an employee. When I didn't say anything about her coming to work late on her first day, guys, that was the beginning of the end. She disrespected me, and I did nothing. I brushed it off and made excuses because I had a scarcity mindset. I didn't want to lose her. I didn't want to have to be in the office for 6, 7, 8 hours a day. Had I taken her aside and say, hey, you show up late one more time, and you're gone, I could have avoided all of that nonsense. Now, maybe Yolanda would have ended up quitting. Maybe she would have stayed. Either way, that behavior would have stopped whether she was employed by me or not. Guys, it is the same with women. We see a pretty face, we see a nice body, we see a nice, and we commit without vetting her properly. She's on her best behavior and we get hooked. Yolanda was on her best behavior Thursday and Friday. I said, man, this is great. She already knows Sage. Everything is good. Then the first time she disrespects you even a little bit, we don't say anything because we want to keep sleeping with her. I didn't say anything because I didn't want Yolanda to get mad and walk out the door. Never mind the fact that there are plenty of girls out there. We have a scarcity mindset, so we think that if we piss her off by handling her disrespect, she will leave and we'll be alone. I had that same scarcity mindset. Listen, there were plenty of other people out there that could have worked for me. But because I didn't want to put in the work necessary to hire a good employee, I ended up paying the price. What ends up happening is that the disrespectful gestures, the disrespectful statements, the disrespectful behaviors keep escalating. And before we know it, we've got a woman who is constantly out of pocket. You're the guy that people see in public who walks behind his woman in public. You're the guy whose woman orders her own meals at restaurants and flirts with the waiter. That's you. You're the guy who gets yelled at by his woman in public. Now, we may think that women disrespect us for many, many reasons, but there's really only one reason they disrespect us. And that reason is because we allow them to. Women do to you what you allow them to. I let Yolanda get away with coming into work late twice and taking a long lunch in her first week of employment. Is there any wonder why she continued to push the envelope? Yolanda's behavior was my fault because I allowed it to go unchecked the first time she did it. Gentlemen, your woman is going to test you. She is going to test you early and often. This is what we call testing. But women also test by exhibiting disrespectful behavior. Like playing on her phone when she's with you, texting her ex, flaking on you when you guys have a meetup planned, talking to you like a child, withholding sex. The list goes on and on. And before you know it, she's cursing you out in public over something silly. But because you don't want to lose her, because you have that scarcity mindset, that scarcity mentality, you don't do anything. You don't check her. You don't correct her bad behavior. Instead, what you do is you Google how to handle disrespect. And you ended up here in wanting to know why your woman is disrespecting you and what you can do about it.